The Amanda Project by Melissa Kantor and Amanda Valentino. Chapter 29. Friday morning, Heidi made a big show of turning her back to me and talking to Lexa Booker as soon as I walked into history class. I wondered if they were talking about me. I wondered if soon Lexa was going to be Lexi. I was on my way from science to English when I looked up and saw Lee walking with Keith and Jake. We made eye contact, and I remembered how he'd kissed my head at Liz's party Saturday night, and how he said I looked cute washing Thornhill's car. Could someone so nice really care what someone as mean as Heidi thought about his girlfriend? "Hey," I said, and it wasn't until the word was out of my mouth that I realized he hadn't slowed down at all. He hesitated for a second, then brushed his hand through his hair and said, "Hey," without looking me in the eyes. "Later," said Keith and Jake, and they kept walking, neither of them acknowledging me. Lee and I stood in the crowded hallway while students headed to class swarmed around us. It was weird how a space could feel so noisy and yet feel so silent. "I'm not an I-girl anymore," I blurted out. "Yeah," he said. "That's what they tell me." I waited to see if he was going to say anything else. Who cares if you're an I-girl? You're my girl. "I've been hanging out with Nia Rivera," I said. "Her brother's a pretty cool guy," said Lee. He still wasn't really looking at me. "Right," I said. My eyes burned. Lee shifted his backpack uneasily on his shoulder. I took a deep breath. "So are we still—" The warning bell rang. I should get going. He edged away. "Don't want to be late for Monster Matterston." "Sure," I agreed. "Don't let me keep you." "I won't," said Lee, and I knew I wasn't imagining the look of relief on his face when he turned to go. "See you around," he called over his shoulder. "Yeah." I brushed quickly at the traitorous tear that was slipping down my cheek. "See you around." I was so glad to see Nia and Hal at lunch I could have seriously bawled. The second I joined them, Hal stood up. "I've got a plan. Amanda wants us to search for her, so let's search. I want each of us to come up with a list of places Amanda could possibly be on a Friday night. We'll all pick, let's say, 3 places. Then tonight we'll hit all of them and try to find her." "You think she's still in Orion?" Nia asked, passing me a bite of another one of her mom's amazing sandwiches. Genoa salami and provolone this time. "Well, she keeps leaving us messages," Hal pointed out. "Yeah, except for all we know, she could be in Paris by now," I said, "or Rome. Or maybe she'll have to go meet her dad in Latin America." "Except that her dad's dead," Hal reminded us. "Except that he's not," I said. "Okay," Nia broke in. "Glad we got that one worked out. Now, Hal, back to your plan. 9 places is a lot of places. How are we going to get to all of them?" "That's the thing." Hal leaned forward, his excitement and his plan mounting. "It won't be 9 places. I bet if each of us come up with 3 places, we're all going to have at least 2 of the same places on our list. I'd be surprised if there are more than 3 or 4 places we need to go tonight." I thought about what Hal was saying. Where would Amanda go on a Friday night? Was it possible she had a whole different group of friends in Orion? People she was hanging out with right now instead of us? "Do you think she could have, a whole separate identity?" I asked. The thought made my stomach sink. "You mean like a French spy?" asked Nia. "If anyone could pull that off, it would be Amanda." I wasn't quite going that far. What if she's at some other high school right now, sitting with her friends there, like a parallel universe? "I wonder if I wear glasses at the universe," mused Nia, twirling a strand of her hair. I said, "I'm serious." Hal pressed his fingertips against his forehead and groaned. "If that's the case, we'll never find her." "That's what I'm saying," I said. "I don't think that's what happened." Nia became purposeful. She had a life here. Yeah, she ditched school sometimes, but not more than, once a week? Twice at the most, which means she would have been cutting at her other school 4 or 5 times a week. I thought about how, after we were up all night stargazing, Amanda and I had just ditched school and slept, and then went for cafe mochas at Just Desserts, and to see a matinee of 2001: A Space Odyssey. And there were those pictures Hal had drawn of Amanda at the docks in Baltimore. Maybe they'd cut school together, too. Nia didn't seem the type to cut so much as as a class, but if anyone could have gotten her to break the rules, surely it would have been Amanda. That meant there were at least 3 days she wasn't cutting Endeavor to go to another school. It does seem like a lot of trouble to go through, to register at 2 high schools and try to attend both, agreed Hal. Then, as if he were reading my mind, he added, especially if you're not always at one or the other. The bell rang and the 3 of us stood up and slowly gathered our stuff. So, what's the plan? I asked as we made our way out of the cafeteria. Let's meet at 4 on the town green, suggested Nia. It's central enough, right? Sure, I nodded. Sounds good. We were passing the main office, and just as we walked by, the door opened and Mr. Thornhill walked out, talking to a parent and a student I didn't recognize. He shook the boy's hand, said something to the mom, and then turned back to go inside when he saw us. Ah, he said, making a slight bow. Mr. Bennet, Miss Rivera, and Miss Leary, who, I might add, might have been spending a lot of time together for 3 people so empathetic about their non-friendship. Mr. Thornhill. Nia was brilliantly frosty. I glanced his way briefly, then looked away. I hadn't actually laid eyes on him since I read my mother's note, and it was impossible not to see him differently now that I knew she'd asked him to look after me. Why him, of all people? What did he know about my mother, about my family, about me, that I didn't know? His voice was mild and amused as he replied to Nia's greeting. I trust you're looking forward to our morning together tomorrow. Oh, detention. Again. Had it only been a week since the last one? So much had happened. I'd completely forgotten that it wasn't a one-shot deal. Without missing a beat, Nia confirmed. Wouldn't miss it. Sir. Hal gave a mock salute. Great way to spend a Sunday morning, sir. Been looking forward to it all week, I said, my voice equally perky. A small smile seemed to be playing around the corners of Mr. Thornhill's lips, but he didn't let it escape. I haven't heard one word from your missing friend, he said. This is a record, even for me. I'm sincerely hoping one or all of you will be able to enlighten me as to her whereabouts in the near future. That would be nice, said Nia, meeting his gaze easily. If only she were our friend, maybe we could help you. Was there anyone as bold as Nia? I sincerely doubted it. If it were in the near enough future, you could all sleep in tomorrow morning, said Mr. Thornhill, ignoring her assertion that we weren't friends with Amanda. Anything can happen, said Hal. You never know, I agreed. Said Mr. Thornhill. Well, good day to all of you. And with that, he disappeared into his office. Nia shrugged when we glared at her. Well, worth a shot. Hal, Nia, and I said goodbye, and I spent as much of the afternoon thinking about Mr. Thornhill as I did trying to figure out where Amanda might be if she were still in Orion. As far as I knew, the vice principal had never once suspended Amanda, even though she constantly flaunted his every rule. And wasn't it a little weird that if he was so desperate to know where she was, he didn't call her parents? What did her official file say? Why force 3 kids he seemed to know were innocent to sit in detention for a month of Saturdays? Was this his idea of looking out for me? For the millionth time, I wondered about the note Hal and I had seen in his car and wished more than anything I could know what it had said.